Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Sackdown. We've got another NA player on the podcast, and there's a lot of places we could start with a player like Vulcan. I mean, you've been playing actually for so long. We actually did a Crackdown episode about like halfway through your career, so we've got like the other half to jump to in this episode. But I think the most pressing matter, what I wanted to start this episode with, had to deal with your Twitter, because I had a random beef with some fangirls online, and I've noticed that you tweeted out, "I stand with the fangirls," and then this emoji. Yep. And then also, you still have a fox right next to your name. So I just wanted to know, what's that about?
Well, I just think that fans in any ecosystem, when there's like competition, stages, audiences, I feel like they're the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a strong foundation, right, like the fangirls supporting the whole ecosystem, like making sure it's all together, all glued together, I feel like it's gonna fail. So I thought that you taking a shot at them was rude.
Yeah.
It was mean. It was not well educated. I think it was ignorant. And I
Okay.
figured that I had to support them. No one's got their back.
They weren't getting enough support.
I had to white knight it. No, not enough support. I had to hop on it too.
Honestly, I'm with Vulcan on this, bro. I'm with Vulcan.
Oh,
I think he was spitting facts, bro. What do you have to say for yourself, Dom?
I just think that, like, yeah, the fangirls are at the bottom of the totem pole here, and Vulcan is
foundation.
He needs them, bro. He needs them. But you know what I've noticed, Vulcan, is like, where are your fangirls, man? Like, where are your fangirls? Like, I mean, if you really
they commented under that post. You got to mention them, and then they spawn in. But I have some. I have some. Yeah.
Okay.
I got letters and stuff.
Respectable. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, there it is. So last time we had you on an episode, I believe this was around 2020, in between splits, something like this. This was like right after you guys had like the most insane split of all time. Then you continued with Cloud9, and you've actually bounced around a bit. But I thought that it would be interesting to talk about the point where you actually split with Zven, because you guys were like insane duo. I remember when you guys went to Korea, you came back, you're playing Aphelios Senna. No one else like knew how these champions were played. You guys were top 10, whatever. Every fucking solo queue game, if I played against you guys, it's just GG. We just FF instantly. They have a Vulcan Zven duo, rank 1 and rank 2, 1500 LP. Somehow, like, their team is also winning on the other side of the map, whatever. Won't talk about that. But you guys were a legendary duo. You won a couple of championships, then you decided to split at the end of 2021. So how exactly did this go down? Was this something that was conscious, like you splitting with Zven, or did you just have a better opportunity from another team? How did this occur?
No, it wasn't about another team at that time. It happened kind of like throughout 2021. I guess it kind of, because it was so long ago, some of the stories came out, or like how the environment was a little bit. You hear like pieces from different members. Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of like team issues, or like people like butting heads and stuff. And that happened throughout the year. And we obviously had a very long year from going, I think we went to finals of lock-in, made MSI, all the way through playoffs in summer, made worlds, from play-ins as well, from play-ins to quarters. So we had a super, super long year. Obviously that's rough on everyone. And we had like a lot of personalities, right? Like I said, butting heads all the time. And that was a year that at the start of summer, we benched Zven, right? So already there was like something going on there, where it came from Luca, it came from Perks, but it's something I could get behind, because I had a talk with Jack around that time, and I was being honest with him. I was like, because he was asking me my thoughts about like the benching and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I mean, if Luca really like wants to do this, then I agree with him, because if it was the end of the year meetings that we have, like every team will have a end of the year meeting where you like talk about the team, coaches, players, talk about like what's next, stuff like that. I was like, if you ask me now what I'll say then, I'll say that I don't want to keep playing with Zven, right? And then he eventually came back because we needed him. We ended up making worlds, all that. But throughout all of that, it was like team issues, everything. And I was kind of burnt out. And at that moment, I was like, I'm done playing with him, and I want something new. I want something fresh. I felt like we had hit a certain level in 2020 that we kind of were chasing, and I don't know, I felt like something fresh was going to be better for myself. So I told Jack I wanted a new duo, basically, and I thought for sure when I said that he would stick with me, right? Like if he had to choose between us both.
He's like, go find it, bro.
Yeah, he was like, good luck out there, bro.
Somewhere.
Good luck to you. No, actually, he was like, okay, sounds good. I want you to talk with potential ADCs, look for like the right fit. You should look at who's available, get to know them, find who you want to play with. And I was like, okay. So I started doing that a little bit, and then a couple weeks or days later, I got told I was gone. So then that was it.
Yeah. Can you refresh our memory? So the Zven benching, I remember that having to do with like his interactions with Mythi, or is this incorrect? I remember that was like part of the discussion, is that they were like arguing a lot, like Mythi and Zven, and essentially like there was a lack of respect for authority within the team. Was this what actually happened, or is this
somewhat? Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly to do with the fact that they were all in G2 together. I would add perks to that too. And what happens, I guess this happens in anything, but what happens in League is that you play together for a certain amount of time, and you build up kind of, I don't want to say scar or trauma, but you build up baggage. And then sometimes when I'm sitting there listening to them argue about something, I can see like in the way that they get super emotional about a certain point. Like I feel like, oh shit, this has happened before. Like they've had this argument before in G2 all those years ago. And now because it's like something that they've reflected upon for so long, and obviously they've dealt with it in some ways, but it's still there from back then I feel like they react maybe a little bit more because of it. And sometimes I'll be like, it feels like this is not the first time they had this argument. And it would just escalate and stuff. And obviously I'm not guilt free. I can be loud in reviews and stuff. And I can, sometimes if I think something is right, I won't give up my points super easily. So yeah.
I wanted to know, as just a follow up on this, what makes you so certain that it's going to be different now? Like, what are the conversations you've had with Zven in preparation for this? How have you seen his maturity change, and how have you changed yourself?
Yeah, I think we've both changed. I think the biggest thing for me that made me want to play with him again is that, kind of like what Dom said earlier, I bounced around a little bit since my time on C9. I played with a lot of different people, all different types of players, personalities, individuals, and I've come to the realization, that might sound kind of simple or dumb, but everyone has their
bad?
Yes, you put it the best way I could have, that's better than I could have said it. But yes, everyone has like I guess pros and cons, right? To put it like super simply. And Zven is like he's a complete pro, like he's always grinding his ass off. He's super good for teams, like he'll keep people in check. If someone's doing something wrong, he'll let them know. It could be like anything from like management to food to how we're showing up to scrims and all that. So he's like makes sure that the team's at the top level. And obviously we had a lot of good synergy and we get along well. Like I don't think we have any hard feelings about what happened in 2021. I don't, and I don't think that he does. And when we started playing again this last bootcamp at the end of last year, it felt like super easy to play with him again. And yeah, so I also, fun fact, maybe we'll get to that, but from 2022 to 2023, in that off season when I stayed with EG, and we had to find a new ADC, I wanted Zven to roll swap and come play for us as like my first option. So it's something that I've thought about for a little bit now. So
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I was going to get the final perspective on this situation. So we've had Blabber on this podcast, we've had Zven on this podcast, and it was funny because Blabber said when he first started playing with Zven, he was like scared of him. Like Zven would get so like mad in reviews sometimes, and he would just be like super tall, and like when he gets mad, it's like red in the face, whatever. And he was like, man, this guy's like 6'5", like, is he gonna fucking kill me? Like, this guy is like I've never experienced this before. What was your first experience like playing with Zven? Because we talked to Zven about it. He's like, yeah, like that's just kind of how we do it over in Europe. What actually happened? Because we're gonna get two biased perspectives of how Zven was, towards Blabber and reviews or whatever. What's your perspective on the situation?
I don't know about this whole like feeling threatened thing. I never felt any kind of way that like, oh shit, Zven is about to get physical or anything like that. Yeah, so nothing like that. I mean, he can get obviously quite worked up in arguments because obviously everyone's so passionate and we all care about what we're talking about and stuff, and it can become personal. So it'll get loud, but I'm not, I'm not any different or any better. So to me, it was fine. I didn't see anything too crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds good. I see you had something you wanted to add, Yamato.
No, it's surprising always. You know, it's weird because like when I met Vulcan in Iceland and we were playing a game, I don't even know if I can say the name of the game. It's
a board game, right? Secret Hitler. I think that's fine.
Secret
Yeah,
Elon.
it's okay to
Secret Elon Salute.
It's the name of a board game, right?
Secret
Elon's good too.
Game. All right,
Secret Elon.
because it's gonna get the whole channel demonetized. Fantastic. No, it's like I you know, I felt right away from interacting with you. I felt like you were very European, very European in your way, and I wondered if that's like just the kind of a cultural difference. Because whenever I interact with Americans, besides maybe Dom is the outlier. You're very European too, Dom. I always felt like they're very act in a very certain way, you know. But with Vulcan, it always felt kind of different. Do you feel yourself that, like, growing up in Quebec, in regards to how you interact with Americans, that it's different? Do you feel more European, so to speak?
Sort of, yeah. Because we also take a lot of pride from being different than both like English speakers in Canada and also Americans, and it's very common for anyone who's well enough to like have vacations to go down to the States and go there, and then you see how the people act and stuff, and like kind of make fun of them as you do as like kids and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we take pride in being different, and I think we are closer to our French roots than Americans are close to their English roots, I guess, right? I mean, Americans come from anywhere, but if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, bro. The French roots, bro. Maybe, bro, he's planting a seed for the future. He's going to be the second import coming to the French mafias in Europe, Dom.
Hey, when Targamas finally gets benched for not speaking, you know, Vulcan will be like, "Hey, by the way,
he's smurfing better. Did you see his games? He's
been good. He's been good. That's obviously a joke. You know, that was something that we've been saying for a while on Sackdown, and then also, you know, the voice comms that they release, they just did that guy no favors.
So dirty.
Like, I don't know if they just like did that strategically or what, but the voice comms they released just made the players look like clowns. You had the one where Socket is just chewing into the microphone the entire time, like loud, bro. You can't hear anything. He's just chewing. And I even asked Yamato at the time, like, bro, does he do, like, can you hear this backstage? Like, why has no one said anything? Because if I was on a team and I heard somebody chewing for like 30 seconds, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's not, he doesn't know that he's chewing. I'm going to let him know. But it actually just went on, like, you hear different clips. 1 minute he's chewing, 20 minutes in, he's still fucking chewing. Targamas hasn't said one word the entire time. Like, I swear that was just a plan to make the team get hate or something like that, bro. It was actually insane.
We had to implement like a rule because like KC was sponsored by Chupa Chup, and we had like this huge Chupa Chup thing, you know, the lollipops. And every player would just like suck on them in game. And at some point, I'm like, I'm going insane, guys. You have to stop eating Chupa Chups because every time you just, it's like, oh, mid-miss. I'm like, what the hell is happening? We had to ban the Chupa Chups. I had to like pick the thing up and like move it to a different room. It drove me absolutely insane.
2025 is here, and Mint Mobile has a resolution for you. Skip the gym, skip the fad diets, skip the BS resolutions you'll forget about next month, and instead make a resolution to save some serious cash by making the switch to Mint Mobile. And right now, you can have half off their 3-month unlimited plan. It's time to leave your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, unexpected overages, and all of their BS in 2024. Mint Mobile is dropping huge savings for the new year by offering any 3-month plan for $15 a month, even their unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your current phone and your number. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile. It's so easy. Sign up online and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. Switch to Mint Mobile, and new customers can have half off an unlimited plan until February the 2nd. To get your new wireless plan for $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/sackdown. That's mintmobile.com/sackdown. $45 upfront required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower, above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plans. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply.
But before I go too deep into what has driven me insane, because I'm like ripping up old wounds, we should bring the focus back. C9 Jack, you mentioned in terms of how he managed that conversation with you. I've always been curious because from outside, he just seems like a ruthless, pretty straightforward businessman. You guys have dealt with him, both of you. I'm curious in terms of how he functions in negotiations and how he maintains relationships, because there's been like very, let's say, brutal decision making throughout C9's history when it comes to rosters.
You can go first, Vulcan.
Let's see how Jack is as a businessman. I mean, he's pretty straightforward, and you can hear sometimes in his tone, like when there's not much room for discussion or interpretation. Like he'll be very direct about the things that he thinks are important or non-negotiable, right? And no, I mean, I think I think he's super good personally because he's like super direct, and he's there's some I don't want to say people in power, but like some GMs or whoever is like in charge of rosters who will like kind of fuck around and like wait and not message you back or like stuff like that. But Jack is just like, if he knows already what he's gonna do, he's gonna let you know, and then you don't have to like twiddle your thumbs and wait for him to tell you what's going on.
Yeah. My interpretation of Jack is that he actually does seem like he cares about you on a personal level. Like he will talk to you like as a human being, and he will try to do the best thing for you, but he will never let that impact his own business negatively. So like he is going to have very strict boundaries when it comes to how he operates, whatever contract you're under. For me, I was a streamer, so I was really talking to him a lot about, making sure that, okay, you are able to fulfill all the obligations that I had. And, if I did, everything was taken care of, everything was fair. And the second that, it didn't make sense to continue, we parted ways amicably. That was my experience with him. So I always just thought he was very similar to Steve, who's the other person that I worked with, where they seem like compassionate people. And Steve is Liquid 112, the owner of, or I guess half owner of TL. They care about their business. They will always make the right decision for their business, but they'll try to be like as kind to you as they can while doing that. That's how I saw him. So yeah, sure. I always liked Jack, and I always liked Steve. I just felt like they were good people to have in the industry, because I feel like a lot of times people that are in those positions are a lot younger than Jack and Steve, and they don't know how to handle these types of situations. Like the social aspect of firing somebody is like so pressing that they just start like, it gets like snaky or it gets like weird. I don't really like people that are not straight shooters, and Jack and Steve are both straight shooters, so always respected both of them.
As I interacted with C9 Jack a couple of times, because there was like moments where we were talking about like me potentially moving over to C9, and those conversations were always like really, really pleasant. They're always very, very good. But it's nice to hear from like behind the door, because you can only like judge. So it seems like when players seem to leave C9, it always seems to be like on decent terms, unless there was like that specific moment where a coach it just left, like that is not spoken about now, the Georgia Pion situation. But maybe in the future, the truth and the stories will come out. I will just have to twiddle my thumbs and wait for that to happen. Unless you want to share something, Vulcan. You want to share something? Something?
No, not on what you talked about. I'm good.
Where do you go from here, though? What do you have in mind?
Vulcan versus LS. I mean, I think we just go in chronological order, because I think there was one thing I wanted to say back when he was talking about his French roots. What was your relationship with XQC as a League of Legends player?
So we kind of knew him because he obviously played League in Quebec. He's from Quebec. And I would participate in some LANs, like compete with. At first, it was my brother. And
this is like 2016 timeframe, or
maybe like 2014, 15, 16, yeah. So we kind of knew him. Like he was streaming, and at that point, he was a very, very small streamer. So he had like 10 to 20 viewers, maybe. And what people would do is he would get sniped in solo queue, and people would pick TF. And they would just select the blue card at all times of the game. Select the blue card because the Quebec flag is mostly blue. So they would select the blue card and completely run the game down and like end that guy on purpose all the time. So that was like that was XQC, right? He was getting completely griefed because people like, I mean, you guys know his personality, right? He's people didn't like him. But anyway, so in like 2015 maybe, when I was like master or something, We got each other in solo queue, and then we added each other and duoed a few games. Ash Thresh, he was playing Ash at the time, and we were undefeated for those duos. And we made like a couple of movies in those games. I can remember like one play where I like hooked the guy over the wall. I lanterned him like he was so far away. I lanterned him. He arrowed before taking the lantern. The bunny fufu. He arrowed before taking the lantern. We one shot the guy, and he was like, "Wow, that was sick, bro!" And then yeah, so that's me and XQC.
Damn,
and I think to this day, if you go look up like the oldest subscribers, I think I'm maybe top 5 or something.
Oh, damn.
Top 5 oldest XQC subscriber. What about on Kick? You subscribed him on Kick, or I feel like you're too fake for that, to be honest. Like you're just not a real one. You wouldn't go over with him to Kick.
No, I'm not to Kick. No, I catch him when he's on Twitch. I don't go to Kick.
All right. That's fair enough. That was the one thing I wanted to mention, because I remember hearing that a while back. I'm like, what the fuck? Vulcan played with like XQC? That just seems so random. I just can't imagine like that being a dynamic.
Actually, I have another kind of funny story, but at some point there was a friend that I had in college. I attended like a year of college, and he sent me like a completely random clip of XQC mentioning my brother, because my brother is also kind of well-known-ish, I guess, in the Quebec League community. And his reason for being known is that he's like extremely toxic, or he was. He's
who is your brother? Right? Do I know him? Like, was he a high elo player?
No, not high enough elo. He's like a master D1. Like at the time, D1 was better, right? But
yeah. I mean, I played in some of those elos. Well, give me the name, and then I'll see if I remember.
He goes by like at the time it was X Demon, Flamer Lord, stuff like that. He had like a few different IGNs.
You look like kind of embarrassed saying that, to be honest, man.
I mean, the names are a bit cringe, right? But it was like 10 years ago at this point, so it was different times.
Oh my god, I might be due for a name change on solo queue. What the fuck, X Demon? I like that.
That's a good one. No, I think I came up with that one because I was like, it does XD, like it was the obviously.
He plays Zed. I have some random memory.
No, he's a top laner. Okay. He played like Fiora, Camille.
Don't remember him then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but so XQC was somehow, I think maybe he was like, because he reacts, right? Maybe he was watching like the LCS finals or something. I didn't see the full stream, but anyway, my brother came up and he was saying how like he was so toxic and he was scared of him at a LAN or something like that because he was like so. Anyways, that's the story.
Interesting. All right, now we'll go back to the serious stuff. That was Vulcan and XQC. All right, so after this, you joined EG, and this is kind of when you like became the king of spring. People said, because this was the third time when your first split with EG where you won spring split in a row. So I wanted to talk to you about like how it felt compared to the other times that you won spring, because you won obviously with C9 2020. That was like, in my opinion, maybe the best team that NA's ever had, and it kind of sucks that whatever happened in summer happened. There was no MSI that year because of COVID. But for people that don't know, it's like the C9 team was, I think, like 35-2 or like 37-2 on stage games. They were just shitting on everyone. Won finals, etc. The next year was the year where you guys played with Perks. You guys won again. Now you joined EG. So how did you feel? Did you feel like you actually were going to win on EG, or was it like maybe we can win, but TL and the other teams are slightly better?
I felt like we could win. Obviously there was like more question marks on that roster compared to like the 2021 roster that we had. Because Jodopion was this new guy. I didn't really know him that much. I don't recall like playing with him that much in solo queue. And Danny, I thought, was a good player in team fights. Obviously there was that clip from EG, which is okay. Very famous. But from laning against him, I was like, okay, he's kind of dizzy in lane. So I was like not too keen on playing with him at the beginning. But obviously we had Impact and Inspired, who two players I very, very highly regarded personally, and obviously from everyone. So I knew that we had a lot of like strong pieces, but it was a question of what's going to happen with Jojo, what's going to happen with Danny. Can they improve enough? Because obviously you can have a rookie come in and be super, super good, but that happens one in every 50 rookies maybe, like a player that's super insane from the beginning. So it's about like how fast they improve their character, because they're going to take a lot of shit from the players who know more about the game, from the coaches, and they need to be able to take that criticism and use it well. So it was definitely a question mark, but I was making a bag on EG, so I was like, fuck it.
Oh, you're making a bag on EG. Was it significantly better than what you're making on C9? Because like in C9, you had that whole thing where it was like guy got bought out for $1.5 million, and everyone was like, $1.5 million for a buyout? That must mean that he's making like 10 or some shit. Like people were losing their minds over that $1.5 million number. Was it significantly? You don't have to say the number. Was it significantly more than you were making before?
It was, yeah.
Damn. All right. Yeah. So you got paid, but in terms of feel, like when you actually got to the point where you're playing the matches, like when you went into finals weekend, how did you expect it to go? Were you like expecting to win, or were you just shocked when it ended up winning? Like you ended up winning because you seemed to win pretty easily as well. Like it didn't seem like you guys struggled in that moment.
No, yeah, I mean, it was for sure. I mean, we jumped like straight to playoffs, but I kind of want to bring it back a little because we were kind of struggling during the regular season because I mean, there was lock-in first. That's kind of irrelevant because like so many rosters weren't full. Like there were so many visa issues and stuff. We went to finals, got shit on by TL in finals. For people who don't remember, we got 3-0'd. And then regular season, we went 9-9, like barely. I think we had an upper bracket spot, but like just barely. And
fourth seed.
Okay, yeah. So it wasn't super easy. I think we lost 3-1 to TL in the upper bracket at some point. Then we went down. And we I don't know, we started clicking. Like Inspired became the general. He was like telling everyone what to do. Like he understood our win conditions very well because kind of like how I touched on it earlier. But Danny is kind of a weak laner, and Inspired was doing his best to like find ways to avoid laning basically and try to get him gold in like different ways. So we would like try to get Rift, send him top, strong side him, try to trade sides. He gets a turret, maybe 2 if we're lucky. Get him gold, go to team fights, and then he 1v9s kind of thing. And it was working super, super well for us. And going into finals weekend, I was confident because we had so many good series. I think we 3-0'd C9 before we went into finals weekend.
Yep.
And then
FlyQuest, then C9, then you played against TL, who had beat you 3-2 in the upper bracket.
Oh, it was 3-2. It's actually closer than I remember. Okay. Yeah, so FlyQuest ended up being the only team that took a game off us in those 4 series that we played back to back. But yeah, like going to TL, I wasn't super confident, but I knew that we had a chance. And then, I mean, like we could go back and look at the games, but it was like we get solo killed bot 2v2, and then it became the meme where like if EG Ballin gets killed 2v2, they'll win the game because like we get tempo from dying, and then we go top or something, and then Danny gets his gold, and we're good. So we rolled everyone, and yeah, you asked me earlier how it felt that win compared to the wins on C9. And there's a few aspects because first of all, it was the first time that I won in front of a crowd because 2020 was in our house. 2021 was on top of the mountain with like no one there.
Oh, you had like sun in your face in the 2021.
And my glasses were transition glasses, so they were like getting tinted. So I was playing like dark chroma league for that finals.
No, I saw Zven. Somebody did something where they showed Zven at the bebeginning of the series and Zven at the end of the series, and he was like he started the series as a white guy, and then he ended the series and he was just red, like actually red, like not like a pinkish hue. Like no, he was just red at the end of the series. So
it's too funny.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so that was good times. But then with EG, it was in Houston, like in this the Energy Stadium, I think. Huge
Energy
arena.
Stadium.
So many fans. The layout was super cool. Like you would walk in between the games, you would walk like kind of inside the crowd a little bit, and then they're all crazy over there. Texans, they were like super hyped up and stuff. So that was crazy, and like winning 3-0. Also, we were in the lower bracket final, right? So we got to play back to back, and because we shit on TL in the first series, and Danny got his pentakill, like the whole crowd was rooting for us. We were like this kind of new team, never won before. So everyone got like behind us for that weekend, and it was just super, super insane.
Yeah. And I remember like the main storyline that prevailed at that point was like you guys were an actual NA team because the other teams that ended up winning didn't have that many NA players on it, or if they had NA players, they were like older NA players, or it was a resident, it didn't feel like actual NA players. And this was a team that had 2 NA, I'm going to call Danny a rookie. I know he played 1 split in 2021, but it essentially had 2 NA rookies on the team. So people were like, oh shit, like NA talent does exist. And, there was a whole discussion that was sparked from that. It's like the whole time NA talent has existed. Like we just haven't been willing to take the risk to get these players the opportunities that they need. So I see you laughing, but I'll just throw it to you. How did you feel about that conversation that was happening in the community? Because it seems that, it was pretty lucky that JoJo and Danny ended up being there. I don't know if the whole thing about NA rookies just being the new wave was really true. But what did you think about the narrative?
No, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a few things. Like, first of all, it's funny when like me and Bauer came from the same year, and we've had the career that
Scouting
we've had,
grounds.
and yeah, we've came from scouting grounds, and then we obviously became like super good and won multiple trophies and stuff. So I feel like there's always kind of been any talent, and it's the same. Like that year was the same as in previous years. Like there's some years that you'll have a couple, some years you'll have none. And it's also like my GM at the time, he would like sometimes joke about if Jojo was on Golden Guardians instead of being on EG, like he would have ran it down so fucking hard that I don't think he would have had another spin in the LCS, because like the type of player that he is, if he didn't have like winning lanes, or if he had to like sacrifice himself to help like a player who kind of sucks, but like maybe they have a win con because they play a specific champ or stuff like that, maybe he would have just fucking sprinted it. And it's kind of true, like we had a really good roster. Personalities mesh well, whatever you want to say, like it works super well. So maybe they wouldn't have had the same success in a different team. And at the same time, yeah, they were super good, but it didn't mean like, oh, it's time for every team to like get an NA rookie, like try to fucking push like a player that's been around for 5 years. Like now suddenly it's time because Jojo and Danny went super well. It's just felt the whole thing felt kind of weird.
Yeah, I saw you had something, Yamato.
I remember that conversation. It was kind of funny. Yeah, it's always the NA talent conversation always came up, but at least last year we had a couple of names that are doing better and better over time. But I wanted to know because you work with two coaches who are very very outspoken figures like Peter Dunn, Rigby. Can you tell me more about what they contributed to the team and how they kind of worked in the day to day?
Yeah. So Peter Dunn. It was weird in Spring Split. I'm trying to remember what happened because at the start I think we had Turtle as the head coach, and he quickly realized that he didn't really have the game knowledge to be able to coach like Impact, Inspired, me, and kind of the team as a whole. Like he kind of took a bit of a step back because he realized like maybe I'm not able to like push them in conversations and find solutions to the problems that we have in games. So he kind of just took a step back, and then I'm trying to remember. Maybe Peter Dunn stepped up as head coach for a little bit until Rigby came in. But at some point through the split, and that was kind of like the big turning point for us, is Rigby or Earl. He's now the coach at Dig, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
He came in, and then we did a lot better. So your question about Peter Dunn, I think he didn't work too well with our team. I think, well, first of all, he like in the way that he talks, he uses very fancy words, and we had not many English speakers, like first language, so a lot of it would be lost in the sauce, like what he was trying to say. And I felt like his weakness is kind of controlling a room. I don't feel like he's super confident guy looking at everyone in the eyes, leading a room, like the typical qualities you would want in a leader. I feel like he didn't really have it. So he was never really our head coach, I think. But he helped Danny and Jojo a lot because I think his strengths are like helping rookies develop and get up to speed with like tier 1 league. So that's where like we benefited from him the most. Was there another person you asked me about? Did I miss someone?
I was just curious about Rigby as well because he's quite a character too. Like he always seems to sail off in the sunset in flames, and then he comes back and just I guess the work speaks for itself. So I'm curious about the work.
Yeah, no, he's a funny character. He came in and then he flamed Jojo a lot because Jojo was making a lot of stupid decisions. So him and Impact kind of ganged up on Jojo, and Jojo is the kind of person who took it very well and like took it in stride and was able to improve from it. But no, super smart guy. Honestly, he's one of the top coaches that I've worked with. But he was super smart about drafting. He was able to like identify issues in our team and in the games, like our scrims, and like be able to apply quick fixes, but not in a like we're not attacking deep issues or whatever. It's just like something that sounds simple but that can do so much in the game, and he was super good at that, and he was a good people's person, so he got along with the team, and overall, yeah, top coach.
Yeah. What's your overall view on coaches? Because I've heard from so many players, I'll just say it, like behind the scenes, so many players say coaches are useless. The coaches are just like maybe one in most coaches are useless. Maybe one in every few ends up being useful. But like I hear this a lot that players don't really like the idea of having coaches, because a lot of times coaches are not as high level players as players. They don't understand the game on that high of a level. What's your overall like opinion on coaches? Obviously, you can't say anything too controversial because you have a few right now. So, what's your opinion?
No, I think coaches are necessary. I think one of the biggest things that I look for in a coach is like how adaptable they are, because there's some coaches that they want to do it like this, and this is what the work that they do. They focus on this thing, and that's it. But what I find from working and playing esports for so long is that every team will kind of need something different and like some different approach. Maybe someone will need like a fucking Gatorade delivered to his desk, right? And like maybe the coach has to do it, something like that, right? It sounds stupid, but every team is different, and I feel like the best coaches I've had is like people who can lead a room, like I talked about earlier. To me, that's very important because I played a lot of soccer.
Some guy with like a really like deep voice, like beard, looks
bald,
wise
preferably.
Beyond his ears. Oh, bald. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Like Nick and Aerosmith, for example.
Oh, okay. Not this guy then. All right. I was just trying to give the alley oop to Yamato, but yeah. He's done it a couple times on stream.
Oh yeah.
I did feel smarter after, I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Right?
Like
yeah.
The shower just was fast.
There's something there for sure.
Useful minutes.
Yeah, so people person can lead a room, like be able to communicate well, like emotional intelligence are things that are very important. And then obviously like some teams will need a coach that has very good game knowledge. Some teams will have super good game knowledge already. Like you have a team of veterans, maybe you need somebody that facilitates. That's been talked about for so long at this point. Yeah, that's it. I think I like coaches a lot. I think sometimes in reviews, like they can go long, you can drag them out. Maybe like somebody's fighting, there's an argument. I feel like it's the job's coach to step in those times and be like, all right, guys, shut the fuck up. We're moving on. Or, yeah, you have a point, but maybe you should listen to this guy because I think what he's saying is better for the benefit of the team in the long run, blah, blah, blah. And I think a coach is the best person to do those things. So, yeah, coaches are a must for me.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to ask about is how the dynamic was with Peter Dunn. That's what I was thinking about when you were talking, because it was this weird thing on Peter Dunn teams where he gets like hired as the coach, but then they always say that he's not like the coach of the team. He's like the head of like the coaching staff, where he like runs like operations for the team. From being in that system, what exactly was that role? I mean, obviously I know that means that he's supposed to be, developing the academy team and putting people in place, but is it anything beyond that? Because it always seemed very strange that he would be in that role where most coaches are like, this guy's the head coach of the team. That's it.
I honestly have no idea. Like, I feel like they switched around this title a little bit while I was there. Like, I think they name changed it, maybe at least once. So, yeah, I mean, I think he was having meetings with the coaches about, like, I don't know, their coach Eyla or something. I wasn't in those meetings.
Okay,
so I'm not too like I don't know exactly what.
Is there a certain ELO that you want your coach to be at? Like, do you need like a high ELO coach?
If there was a coaching ELO, like purely coaching ELO, for game, I think. I mean, you have to be at least diamond. Like these days, diamond is so low ELO. Like if you're not diamond, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just offended like most of our viewers. Perfect. Excellent. If you're not diamond, you're just
sorry, guys. I mean, in terms of
honestly,
we're talking about somebody who works in esports, gets paid by a professional team, right? Like in that lens, Yeah.
But it's a great rank if you're just like an average guy,
I think gold is amazing. You're above average. I think that's good, especially if you're like.
What rank are you in TFT actually? Because
I'm plat 2 right now. Plat 2.
Plat 2. Okay, so
and I started this set. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, that's the ego coming out. Anyways, yeah. So, okay, we move on with this. We move on with this team. Obviously, there's the EG summer catastrophe. Seems very delicate. I don't know if I actually want to talk about the summer 2022 thing. I don't even know if you have anything to say. It seems like it has been publicized enough. For people that don't know, there was a issue with like Danny and how he was dealing with stress. Even his tweet after MSI was kind of cryptic. People were a little bit weirded out by that, because normally when somebody gets eliminated from a tournament, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sad we lost." Whatever. His tweet was something like "I'm just happy that it's over," was the vibe that it gave off. So people were like, is he like upset, or is what exactly does that mean? Summer, he ends up wanting to step down from the team. Guys play Worlds with Kaori. From your perspective, was this something? I don't know what you can say and what you can't say. Was this something that was preventable, or do you think that it was just like it was just something that was going to happen no matter what because of how fast everything moved in his life?
Very hard to say. My thoughts on it is that like I don't know if there's a team in the LCS at the time that would have done something so much different that like you would have not been so burnt out or so done with playing pro at the time, like because I don't know, like everyone's talking about the neglects and stuff, like you said, super politicized. But they needed people that were next to him. Like we obviously cared about Danny. The coaches didn't like ignore completely the signs of him maybe being unwell and stuff. I don't even know how much I'm supposed to say about this, but like,
yeah,
everyone who like obviously cares about winning and is a part of like the the squad was trying to make the best of the situation and like help him in any way that we could. So to me, it's like, okay, maybe if he was in a different team, there was this whole thing about like him asking to step down earlier, but then they mind tricked him into playing or whatever. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, apparently that was just done in the room with like the report was that this was just done in a room. Like he went into a room with the CEO. He said he didn't want to play, and then he came out. And he's like, I do want to play. So that was the report. Like,
yeah,
officially. So
yeah, I don't know if like if he had been in a different org, something I would have gone down differently. I want to say that like the people that were doing the work day to day, being out there all the time, were trying their best. And there's this whole thing about EG that some people love to talk about, but like the higher ups love to put themselves in front of the camera when we had success, and then we wouldn't see them, during the day. They weren't part of it. They don't have any right to claim credit for any of our success or failures, to be honest. Actually, the failures, they can claim success to that, or like claim accountability. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, they can claim the failures.
They can claim the failures for sure. Yeah, exclusively.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. But yeah, I think it was a long year, super stressful, and yeah, he needed a break.
Is that something that normally happens when you have these teams that like go to MSI? Because I feel like that is when you see the slump. There's like that post-MSI slump that a lot of teams end up experiencing in early summer, where have this grind in spring, make playoffs. You used to have to win your split in order to go to MSI. So you'd win your split, go to MSI, come back, and it's like summer season starts in a week and you don't have time to even like prepare, and you're just back like in the fucking mix immediately. So you've done that a couple times. Like, is this something that is difficult for you? Like, have you got better at dealing with that?
No, it's not something that's difficult for me in the moment, but then like afterwards I can look back at like how the year progressed, how maybe I felt around those times and stuff, and I can be like, damn, like this might be part of the problem, like part of the reason why it didn't go so well. Because yeah, like in 2022, we qualified for the Texas event because we made lower bracket final. We flew there, and then we were supposed to come back, but our flight got canceled because of the thunderstorm. So we lost one day. We came back. We had 1 day to prepare before we left to Korea for MSI. So then we flew to Korea. We flew directly back. Like sometimes you'll have time to go back home for me in Canada between the splits, but we didn't have time for that. So we went back. We had like a week, I think, like a full week off before we had to start scrims again, and content like riot shoots and stuff. And we started scrims like I think it was probably like a week before we had a stage game. So it's like it can be super fast. The schedule can be tough, but for me it's not super difficult. Yeah, like I said, like I'll go back. I had that week off, and then I do like so much of doing nothing that when we restart, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, something to do, something to grind, something to a goal to have. So I like it when it restarts. Yeah.
So when you restarted here, I think the thing that people were the most confused about was, I guess, how the situation became negative. I don't know if the vibes were off or if it was just a Danny specific problem, but you guys had a great split. You guys pretty much dominated the LCS compared to spring. You were 9-9 in spring. Summer, you're 15-3. I think this is when Inspired won MVP. Like, it was just like everyone thought that you guys were just going to win LCS again. Were the vibes within the team good, or was it like stressful even though you guys were at the top?
No, I'd say that it was good. But at that point, it was kind of a thing where Danny was a bit separated from the rest of the squad, where like he would, show up for scrims, and then once it was done, he would go and play at home. If he was playing solo queue, he'd play solo queue. If he was playing a different game, we don't really know. But the rest of us, we were having a lot of fun. We were chilling. I think the vibes were super good, if I'm not remembering it wrong. But
because I mean that's normally the case. If a team's winning, it's like winning solves everything, right? The second that a team is winning, it's like, oh shit, they become your best friends. Your teammates are your brothers at that point.
Yeah, and you ride such a high, and like, yeah, winning versus losing, it's crazy how much of a difference it can make in like your day-to-day enjoyment of life as a whole. It's yeah, it's crazy.
You guys mentioned like the stress of MSI. It's like I was fortunate enough to go to 2 World Championships that you attended, like in Iceland and also the one with Mexico and then in New York. I wanted to ask about your experience specifically in terms of, like, let's say the practice process and the logistical nightmare that is the World Championship. What is your overall experience? What can you share from your side? Because we had like the mess, players had COVID and all that jazz. I want to hear like the inside story of what you had to deal with and what your teams had to deal with.
A lot of the time, it's like airflow in the hotel rooms is a big problem. Like there'll be like a.
Right, it's like, what do you do? Like fart a lot or something, or like what is
Nothing
like, what
to
do you
do
mean,
with that,
like,
bro? It's just like sometimes you have AC, but if you do, like, the fan is obviously somewhere in the room, so you have someone who's sitting right next to it. So if you're right next to the AC, you want it set at a certain degree because like it's blasting on your hands and you can't play. But if I'm sitting all the way over there when the fan is right here, then like I won't feel anything. So I'm gonna be like cooking over there, like super hot, no airflow. I'm like dying, and then someone's like freezing. So I'm like, can we turn the fucking AC down, guys? Like I can't focus. And then he's like, what the fuck? I'm freezing, man. Like, we can't do that. And then it's like stuff like that, or like we had to have a window open during Iceland. I think some COVID regulation. We needed a window open, I guess. And I was by the door, I think, and then I was like getting headshotted by the window and door airflow. We would have our door open, I think. So like I was getting blasted. That was me freezing that time. So it's stuff like that. I think in Iceland I refused to sit. I didn't want my chair to be like right behind a desk or something. I didn't want to be like stuck.
Iceland. You shouldn't have mentioned Iceland. We have one more thing to revisit.
So many things in Iceland.
Yeah.
But like I refused to sit in a specific spot, so I sat away from Zven, and he was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" But like I sat at the entrance because I wanted to have like I hate when I get up and like it's so stuck because sometimes the practice rooms are a little bit small. I hate it so much when I have to, sorry, excuse me, and like I don't have freedom to like move around. So yeah, and then obviously Iceland, we had COVID tests in the morning, early morning, getting stabbed and stuff like that. So yeah,
these were painful, man. It was such a weird thing.
The one in your nose, or which one are you talking about?
Nose down. Yeah.
Okay,
you could choose.
But like he made it sound like you get stabbed, like, bro, like it wasn't that bad. It made me feel like I like had sneezed. Like it just.
But they were like there are different degrees, like depending on where you go. I think because I've heard stories of people Worlds in China in 2020 where like you would land and then like they would like fuck you up, and some people were like tired from their flight and they got like messed up, a little bit. So I've heard some are worse than others.
The Iceland ones were girthy, man. They were big bone. And Iceland was such a weird experience because we were just in a hotel and we had to follow these COVID regulations though. And then in the hotel, like people were partying, like they were just partying downstairs.
COVID didn't exist over there.
They just didn't exist. But we had to follow rules. And we had like these riot officers like knocking on doors because the Chinese teams were like hide people in cupboards. Because you could only have like 6 people.
They would have like rice cookers, like they would have like 5 rice cookers on one outlet, and I think they fried the whole circuit at some point.
Oh yeah. That's
And then I think they had because of the COVID regulations. I'm remembering stuff as you mentioned them, but they had like we called them snipers. They had people tasked at being like at the very top floor of the hotel, and they would look at us walking because I think we were not supposed to walk with obviously anyone from different teams while it was locked down, and I think we weren't allowed to walk with someone from our team from like for the first 5 days or something like that. So like they were looking at people walking and making sure that they were walking correctly. Yeah.
Interesting. Like perfect separation and stuff, like certain amount of distance.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually crazy. You brought up Iceland. This is what I was saying you shouldn't have brought up Iceland for. The other story we heard was an argument that you got into with, I believe it was Mithy. It was like over a draft. Like apparently you were giga triggered because you're about to play against Ruler in Gen G. This is how at least I was told the story. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but I'll just tell you how I remember it. You guys were about to play against Ruler, and you guys the coach was telling you, Mithy was like, oh, we have to ban like this support and like this AD carry and this AD carry and this AD carry, and you were really triggered because you're like, bro, like it's like what, you want to ban everything? Like, you think we just can't fucking win? You think like we're dog shit? Like, you have to give him something. Like, he has to play a champion, right? Like, so like I need to fucking like be able to like play the game. Like, we don't need to ban every single fucking champion that he's ever played in his entire life because I'm like super dog shit. Like, you're like offended by this. Is this accurate? Like, how did the story go?
Be honest, the story rings a bell. If anything, I don't even remember exactly what happened. I think I remember the restaurant. We were like at this Vietnamese place, and yeah, like Mithy was glazing ruler a little bit, and from my perspective, if the glazing gets a little bit too intense as you're about to play him, it can't be helpful for a team to like, obviously you're going to talk about their strengths and what to look out for during the game, draft, everything. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. But like when the glazing gets so intense that like your players maybe feel like because if we're glazing ruler the whole time, it wasn't my direct opponent. But like for Zven, it's obviously dog shit to like, talk about how the GOAT is playing and for the whole time. So I probably got triggered, yeah. But the fact that I don't remember, to me, it was probably like a normal, I didn't get like too worked up on it, I think.
I heard that you guys were in a restaurant. And you guys are actually like yelling at each other in the middle of the restaurant. That's what we heard. It's like you guys are actually like yelling in the restaurant. Like people were looking, they're like, what the fuck is going on over there? And then at some point, like Blabber was sitting there. He's like, oh man, is this fucking like bad? Or like, are we about to fucking disband? Like, what is happening? And then like Perks just like, it was just another like fucking Tuesday for Perks. He was just eating his dessert. Then he just like left. He's like, all right, see you guys at scrims. Then he just like went up to his room. Was this over dramatized? Were you guys getting into it?
Blabber's POV seems like it was very crazy, but that's what I was gonna say. Like the fact that I don't remember it super well. I feel like it was, for me, it wasn't a big deal. But
so
I remember
either
that
not a big deal and nothing happened, or Vulcan just has these type of fights with everyone all the time. This is the
and I just forget them because like I'm just crazy, I guess. Yeah. No, but Blabber gave me feedback after that year, but he said like sometimes I won't realize when I'm speaking super loudly. So maybe that ties into the fact that I was screaming at the restaurant and I didn't notice because like when I get heated up, I guess it can rise.
Okay, all right.
So I'm more aware of that now. Cheers.
All right. Cheers. All right. 2023 was a weird year. Like we talked about all the good times. You won a bunch of championships. Like everyone's like, oh, Vulcan's the best support in NA, all this good stuff. Now we have to like get really depressed and talk about 2023 and your time on EG/FlyQuest. So obviously you had slightly different roster on EG in 2023. You ended up changing some players. How did you feel about like this transitional period? Because it feels like most of the positions were like either side graded or downgraded. It didn't feel like great, I guess, from watching it. Like, for example, Impact, one of the most legendary tops. Like people still think that he's one of the best tops in NA and definitely the best top in NA history. He ended up going to FlyQuest. Obviously the Danny situation happened. You needed a new AD. You got FBI. Like, did this team with Someday and FBI, how did this feel?
Yeah, I'd say it wasn't a great offseason. I think management kind of undervalued Impact. I don't know exactly what happened, behind closed doors between Impact and management or the team. But like the general feeling was that Impact to Someday is like a 1-to-1 trade and they're like comparable. But having played with both, and obviously you can see like the different results. Impact is so much more. I want to say he's like so much more passionate about it. Like he cares so much more about League, in my opinion. He's like he does so much during the game to help the team, and it's not necessarily Flame to Someday because some players are different, but Impact really had so much value for our team, and he was bringing so much knowledge, so much comms during the game, like. Even outside the games, you'd always like bring people like, look, this situation, like, don't you think you should do this or whatever. So Impact was a very, very big piece of EG 2022, and then I don't know if he asked for $1 billion and then EG was like, well, fuck off, or what happened there, but they didn't find a deal, I guess, and so that was that. And I thought FBI was a good pickup. I thought he was pretty good. Strengths and weaknesses, but I was happy with that. Obviously, I mentioned earlier wanting Zven for that year, but that wasn't an option at the time. So we went with FBI, and I was pretty happy about that pickup. But yeah, I think the impact to someday transition was the thing that hurt us the most, and then it was not necessarily downhill from there because we were still a pretty solid team, I think. But we didn't get it together in playoffs, and then the EG was just like, well, we're not spending that much money anymore, so you guys go away.
So one thing that we didn't really touch on is, I guess, in 2022 summer, you started competing against Zven. What was that like playing against your former AD carry as a support? Like, did you have like beef there? You're like, oh, I can't like let this guy fucking beat me as support. Like, he'll like never stop talking shit if he like outperforms me. How did you feel about competing against Zven?
No, not so much Zven specifically, like not the individual, but the team as a whole. Always, like when you play against an old team, you'll want to beat them. But for me, especially in 2022, even more because there was this narrative from players that left before me, and also like when I left, the narrative was like players will leave C9 and then not be good anymore, like they'll become shit or something, as if like they rely too much on C9. And I wanted to like make a case that.
And then you got 9th place in summer. Perfect, Vulcan. You conquered the narrative.
I won the split right after Dom. After I left C9, yeah. So
true.
Talk about that.
We need Vulcan around all the time, bro. That's no bullshit, bro. We just need you around always, bro.
I was talking about 2023's summer, but okay, you won the split after.
I was tying it together.
So the narrative is done. So at that point, the narrative, like, it doesn't matter what happens. If you won the split and then you were shit for 10 splits in a row, it would be like, hey, bro, I wasn't shit after I left C9. I won a split.
Exactly. You get it.
All right.
No,
perfect.
but no. I still cared about beating C9, obviously, but not Zven so much. Like, I thought he was good, and it was a good fit for him to play support, so I didn't have like a personal vendetta or anything.
Yeah. Did you like think that you were like better than him the whole time? Like, were you like?
Of course, yeah. I did. I mean, I think we had very different strengths. I think his e-girls, Lulu, Yumi, and stuff were better than mine because he's from the perspective of an ADC, and he, can understand like.
Fangirls that are listening, remember he called those champions e-girls. Like, I don't know where he stands, right? He might not actually be on your side. Like, okay, all right. Just continue though.
It's kind of rude, Vulcan.
Kind of fucked up.
But I still thought like, I mean, when I was playing playmaker versus him playing playmakers, I thought there was a difference, and my creativity was better. Blah blah blah.
And that's really what support is, right? Like, it's like the engaged supports. It's Nautilus Leona. That's what support is. Not like
going in, like dying for the team, not like hanging back and shielding.
Yeah, playing Yumi. Like, Yumi is an abomination. Okay, yeah. I mean, I agree. Those are better strengths to have. So yeah, we'll let it go there. I saw Yamato wants to say something.
We are 20 days deep into 2025, and everybody says new year, new me. And in some ways it is true, in some ways it is not. I am still keeping fresh with Mando. Whole body deodorant was a game changer for me because, you could always, protect the armpits just a little bit, but now you can put that all over the place. We're talking about the grundle. There's some areas, that are supposed to be Area 51, but now they're just, everybody can be welcome. 72 hours straight, clinically proven, no problems at all. You can take care of yourself, be smelling like Mount Fuji. You can walk confident down the street knowing that you are ready for any situation. People up close, you're in the subway. This person smells damn good. That can be you. I keep smelling like Mount Fuji. Don't tell him, how do you smell, bro?
Oh, I smell like Mount Fuji as well. There's something about us all smelling like Mount Fuji that keeps us in a community here at the Sackdown. So you can do it too. Your grundle can smell like Mount Fuji if you go to the link that Yamato's about to shout out right now.
That's what's up. Before I get to the link, I need to entice you why you should press the link. Because there's a Mando starter pack that is just simply perfect for all new customers. It comes with the solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. I like the mini body wash, you get the deodorant wipes too, when you're busy and on the way and you need to keep it quick and also still keep it fresh. Obviously, on top of that, you get free shipping. As a special offer for the listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% of your starter pack if you use code TSD at shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe to grundle and everywhere else with Mando. Thank you, Mando. Vulcan, I've been on record, especially that 2023 year and previous years, And also this year too. I mean, not this year. I mean, 2024. I always felt. I always, from my perspective, looking at the NA super position. Obviously, this is going to be very up close and personal. NA super position. I was always thinking this is a role that is suffering, really, really suffering. Like I didn't see the level. I felt like this year it kind of ramped up. I think Boosie started playing battle. Cordier J was driving things. In regards to my view. Now that you guys are comparing, like you fought against Zven and so forth, how would you view like the NA support role and yourself in it? Is it very competitive? How would you just view the role itself in North America?
I think it's not so bad now as it was a couple of years ago. I think a couple of years ago there was a lot of players that were like, I felt like when I played against them, it was kind of a free win because like they would be so AFK on the map that like I had so much freedom to do whatever I wanted. I could take over vision, roaming, anything. Now it feels like more of a a challenge versus most teams, if not all. But I do think there's like kind of a big drop off after the top few supports. But maybe that's the case for like most roles in any league. But yeah, like this last year rather. I will add my name to the list that you listed, but Core, me, and Busio, I think we're very good. And then after that, there's like Huhi, who's a good player,
What
but
about
he's
Eyla?
kind of hit or miss. Yeah, Eyla, I think he had some good moments, to be honest. Like I'll give him that. I think he had some good moments. He plays real well. He has his champions, and they obviously have very good. It looked like from the outside, at least looking at 100 Thieves, that they have very good like teamwork, and they just fucking go in and they fight everything. And he was playing well. But no, he's not on the Vulcan tier. I can tell you
Okay.
that much.
Well, because the
Yeah.
reason I brought him up is because in 2023, you guys had the most random beef I felt like I had ever seen in the LCS, but I was there for it. Where just like randomly, it felt like you were just flaming Eyla. Like, so where did that come from? Like, is that how it happened? Am I missing a step? Because I felt like you randomly just started going in on him, being like, "Yeah, this Eyla guy is shit," and I was like, "I mean, I fucking agree, but like, damn, like, all right, respect."
No, so the way it started is that okay, so I play an esports soccer group, right? We go and play pickup soccer weekly, and
Okay.
Winsome plays with us, or he played with us when he was in NA. Is he in Brazil? He's not.
Yeah,
Anymore.
he's in. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's in
but
Brazil. LTA South.
so we played soccer together, right? So I was kind of homie with Winsome, and then FlyQuest had this whole thing with Winsome playing until Eyla got his visa. They were doing really well, but Eyla came in, so they were like, well, fuck, we kind of promised this guy that he would play, so let's throw him in. So he played a game, and then I was looking at it, and he was not playing well, Eyla, during that game. And he kind of just replaced my homie Winsome that I was playing soccer with. So I went on
Okay.
Twitter and I was like, classic stupid meme of esports, everyone says it. I said, bring back Winsome, because he was fucking inting Eyla. And like,
Yeah.
it was my boy Winsome that got replaced, right? And then Ayla didn't reply until after I had lost my game that day. And I played well. Like, we can go back and look at the game. Like, I'm sure I can pull up the dates. We can go back and look at the game. I did well. And then after I lost, right, Ayla waited for me to lose. He said, promote Smoothie. And I was like, this fucking guy couldn't say anything before my game. He had to wait for me to lose. I did fine, right? Like, find a different meme if you want. You can clap back at me. But if I played well, that doesn't make sense. You played shit. You should bring back Winsome. Makes sense. So then I
Okay.
got really triggered. But also, obviously, it didn't help that I lost that day. Because, you feel worse. So I tweeted something like, what did I tweet? Like, it must suck to know that he's not an integral part of his team's success because he came into a team that was 9-0. And he's replaced someone that didn't need to be replaced. So I was like, that's a shame. Like XZ, like I don't know, I memed him and I went kind of hard, and then that's how it started. Yeah.
And how does because the thing is, I feel like after this he took it really personally. Like there's times where I looked up and in interviews he was like still like, yeah, I'm explaining why I don't like Vulcan. I don't like him because this whatever. Do you still like feel like any type of beef towards him, or is it just like kind of like an annoying thing at this point?
I kind of buried the hatchet. I think this year or the last, probably this year, where I was setting up on my desk for an LCS game, and there was like a cable with the tag Ayla, and he was doing an interview. So I pulled up and I was like, "Here you go," and I gave him his mouse charger, and then that was kind of us like, this is done. But
Okay.
no, there was weird moments before that though. Like after it had started, kind of, and we played each other. He thought he was in an anime a little bit, and he would like stare me down like this, and then I would like look at him, and I'm
No way.
kind of smiling a little bit because I think it's funny as fuck. And I'm like,
What the
I like smirk and I laugh a bit, but he's like he's trying to kill me or something. And I was like, wow, this guy, man. I don't know. I respect it.
That's
He's like standing
unreal.
on business, but it's so cringe. It's too cringe.
This would be
Jesus,
like
bro.
right before you guys played, or when would he do this? Like
Yeah,
just randomly?
it's right before we played, and then I fisted him with Thresh. I remember the game. Yeah.
Okay. And then you took his job.
He took his job.
Yeah.
Turns out to be a terrible job. But
Yeah, it wasn't a great job. He could have kept it.
tell us about it, brother. This is the juice, bro. This bro. I thought you were gonna save them, bro. I was like, damn, because I was watching Eyla and Winsome, and I was just watching how Prince was suffering with these guys, and I thought, damn, Vulcan's gonna save them. What the hell happened, man?
Yeah, so okay. I had the same thoughts as you, right? Obviously during that short off season between spring and summer. I was looking at my different options. I had a couple. FlyQuest was like the top one in terms of like best roster possible. They just came third. The weakest position to everyone and to me was the support role. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna jump in there, bring the team up to speed, and like we'll play how I like to play, and we'll be goated. And I turned down like other options, and it's kind of funny and sad at the same time. I think it's funny now, but my other option was NRG, right? That ended up winning the split with Ignar, who obviously as a competitor, I'll say that I'm better than him. And it was for almost twice the salary as a side note that NRG offered.
Oof.
And I turned it down to have the better team because I was like, I'm signing a short-term contract. I want to be on the best team possible. Obviously, you think about these things as a pro player. You don't put it on the forefront, but I was like, I want to do the best way possible for my contract negotiations going into 2024. And they're the best team. I want to compete. I want to, obviously be a part of the best team. So I was like, all right, I'm going with FlyQuest for sure. So I come in, and they had a lot. I talked a bit about like baggage earlier with, the G2 boys that were on C9.
Yep.
And that was kind of the case with FlyQuest, where like they had internal problems and some players wanted to make roster changes that didn't pan out. Like they talked internally about switching mid. It didn't happen. So Vikla came back, but the team didn't really trust him. There was like a few underlying issues, I would call them. And then we started playing, and I don't know if like they forgot how to play because of the break or something, but in my first few scrims, I was like, wow, this is so fucking low elo. Like there are 4 players that played together, right? And I come in, and like I'm assuming that they have some sort of like systems like down, like communication, the way they talk. They're able to like efficiently say what they want to do, stuff like that. And it was like complete freestyling, very low. Like we had very good players, right? I'm not going to say that we had anyone who's bad. We had very good players, so we were able to win scrims. So it wasn't like super glaring that we sucked, but like it felt in the games as if something's wrong here. That they went so far in spring. They were almost at MSI because there was 2 teams that year. They were
like
one game away from making finals.
Yeah, they like massively threw one of the games that would have just put them in finals.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that was Vikla probably inting, and I feel like
it's like a game where they just inted to Malphite. They're playing into Golden Guardians, and I think it was like Licorice Malphite just got like an unholy Malphite ult on like everyone. No one they just like won the game. It just looked very NA.
Yeah, some kind of trauma. That makes sense to me. So yeah, it was pretty low elo, and then so we sucked right at the beginning, and obviously we had a lot of good players, and Impact and me had like a lot of stuff to say in review, so we were trying to improve every week. We we didn't stop trying. We were going every week as with the idea, at least for me, that like at some point we're going to turn it on. At some point we're going to figure it out because we have good pieces, and then once we find the correct way of playing as a team, then we'll be back and we'll be good. And also scrims, after like a couple of weeks, obviously it was very low elo at the start. We worked on it and we became better. Scrims were better. We were doing pretty well, but on stage it was just shit. I remember the first game we played, we got 2v2 killed. We were playing FLS Yumi against Lucian Nami versus Double Lift and Busio, and Prince, he was like not saying anything. I was writing him as Yumi. That sounded pretty gay.
Okay, all right.
I was playing Yumi, and then we got 2v2 kill. I was like, this is weird. Normally Prince is like super 1v9. He's like saying what he wants to do, stuff like that. Yeah, we sucked. I'm wondering if you guys have any questions. To like, I have like so many. I don't know.
I guess on my end.
go for it, Yamato.
just like Prince is such a mystery to us, you know, because like we watched him do so well over in Korea. He was imported, and then he was like popping off, and then it was just downhill, and then it continued over in the LPL downhill, became a Jin OTP, and now he's casting. And God bless him, you know, he found his calling. But seeing him next to, you know, Caster Jun and Cloud Templar, it's funky. It's funky. I was working with Prince. Like, what happened to the guy?
I mean, maybe you can, but he's an interesting character. He's like he's an intense guy, I guess, and I think he took like the hard times very deeply, I think, and I think it affected him very hard to like not play well, because I think individually he was kind of struggling, and obviously as a team we were struggling, so I think he had a hard time like coming back from us sucking. But yeah, he's like a little bit crazy, not like in a super wild way, but like he's a very interesting character, and I liked the guy, and I didn't hate playing with him, but he has a little bit of craziness to him that I wonder if you experienced. Yeah, that's kind of my read on Prince. He was, I think overall he was good, but didn't perform well, and I think he got affected by us sucking. That's kind of my take.
Yeah, I think the weird thing for me was how when we watched him in LPL is when I really started like being like, what the fuck happened? Because I could see somebody having a bad split, especially the thing that I want to note about when you guys had your bad split was that was a very weird format that LCS had. So for people that don't remember, this was number one, you guys were playing weekdays. It's like no viewership. This is like when the LCS was just getting killed for no reason. It was like, all right, they're playing on weekdays at like the middle of the fucking day. And there was 3 games a week every single week. So the way that it worked is you just played 3 games and then you had like, 1 day off, 3 scrim days, 3 more games. And it's like people weren't really improving. It was just like a very weird format because when you play a best of 1 on one day, we've talked about it before on the show. When you do a best of 1 on one day, your whole day is like cooked. Like you might get some warm up in, you get your stage game, but like traveling to the studio, coming back, like, people just fuck off after the game. Maybe you do a review. It's not a productive day the way a scrim day can be a productive day. So there's not that much time to improve. And also this is the split where I believe you guys started like 0-6 or something. You guys were losing like every game at the beginning. So it was very hard to come back from the hole you put yourself in the first 2 weeks. So, I mean, there's a couple things. The thing about Prince that was so weird for me was watching how he mechanically fell off when he got to the LPL. Because we thought, okay, he was great mechanically in spring, like looked like by far the best AD. It looked like no one was even close to Prince in NA in early spring. He just came in and was shitting on everyone. Then in summer, he doesn't play as well, but it didn't look like he was the main problem. Like most people were really worried about Vikla. Prince goes to the LPL and he literally like couldn't lane versus anyone to the point where like they were just Jin wasn't meta and he was just playing like Jin and just spell casting people. Like he looked like an actual noob when he got into the LPL and he got benched and came back. And the weirdest thing for me was the mechanical fall off. I'm like, how, like, did he stop playing the game? Is he, was he not playing solo queue? How do you fall off that hard individually in such a short amount of time? I haven't seen that from a player that played that well, because the thing about spring for me was that he could play everything. It wasn't like he was only performing on a very niche meta, because sometimes you can get away with only playing a few champions well if it's like that, Zeri Sivir meta that we had or something like this, where you don't need to have the insane like breadth of the champion pool. But he was playing Jinx, and then when he got to LPL, man, it was rough. I don't know, did you catch any of the games of him playing over there, like when he was playing on WE?
I only saw the game where he got zoned for like 4 waves. He had 0 CS or something when it was like it was a funny game meta and he just couldn't touch a CS. That was like so depressing.
Yeah.
Jin bard game, I think the bard just peaced out
against like double ADC, and then he was just zoned. He didn't play the game. Yeah, that's the only thing I saw.
Yeah, I mean, it was really weird because he was playing like Jin every game when it wasn't meta. Then he was playing like Sivir. Then he would just play like random champions. Then he got benched for this player, Stay, who was better than him, like by all regards. And then we just never heard from him again, bro. Last time he played was in March. And then he's like, yeah, I'm retiring and becoming a caster. It seems like such a weird trajectory because less than a year before he got benched, he was on a top team. The player I wanted to ask you about, though, was Vikla, because Vikla was a mystery to everyone. He was playing really bad in the stage games, but he was also like, rank 1 in solo queue, and he was playing really well mechanically in solo queue. People were like, okay, normally when a player is individually underperforming, the Korean and Chinese ways, you bam solo queue, you get high rank, get the confidence back, and then you like go into stage games. why was it going so wrong for Vikla in your opinion?
I mean, I thought, and I told him after the year was done, I thought Vikla was one of the best players on that team personally, because when I played Scrim and I looked at what he was thinking, like what he was playing, his decisions, how he played out situations, I felt like he was doing a lot better than. And I don't want to throw people under the bus, but I thought that Spica and Prince were not playing as well as they could have, or maybe should have, as you would expect for their levels, And I thought Vikla was like actually pretty good, and so I'm happy that he got his spot on Fearx, and I got to see him at the boot camp because we were boot camping over at Fearx. But yeah, I think that Spica strengths aren't like helping out a laner who can't talk. Like Vikla was pretty bad at communicating because he was Korean. He didn't pick up English very fast. He's kind of a more reserved guy. I think he was the youngest in like the Korean hierarchy of age, so like he didn't have the right to talk. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but like they have this, this
That's
is
how it should
different
be.
in Korea,
I
right?
wish we did that.
Right. So like he was kind of like more reserved. He didn't really speak out. He didn't ask for help when he needed, or he eventually kind of did, but like it wasn't supernatural to him. So he wouldn't tell exactly what he needed from me or Spica. So maybe he didn't get the most help, and he had to like kind of deal with the situations that he was put in. And I thought he was doing good with what he had to to work with. Obviously, it's his fault that he can't communicate well and that he didn't learn English super fast. That's on him. But if you look like purely at the League of Legends player, how he plays the game, I thought he was like one of our best players. So yeah, that's my take on Vikla, because like you said, he's super high ranked in solo queue. I thought he was a good player.
The guy definitely started ramping up in LPL. I remember like his melee champs, and he was like showing what he's capable of over in LPL. Now that he moved to LCK, it seems to be okay. It seems to be doing okay. I guess the final guy I'm interested in, because you mentioned like how important Impact was, of course, in EG for your team, and you mentioned now as well how you guys work together to try to move forward. What do you think was the biggest thing from holding, let's say, you and Impact back from pushing Dross forward? Because it's so hard to imagine, because like Impact's career is always, like in my mind, like he is the guy who like raises the floor of the team. Every team Impact's been on has been very, very competitive. What was the main reason you think was holding you guys back from like pushing the team just to the next level?
I think a big thing, and I can't speak for Impact, but at least from my perspective, like we lost a lot of trust in each other as the split went on. Both as like kind of people, at least for me, like I feel like some of my teammates, I kind of touched upon it with Prince when I said like dealing with hardship sounds like someone writing a book about their whole life, like, but like dealing with like the losses and stuff. So I think we kind of lost trust in each other as players and people, and then it made us kind of like feel rushed during the game, and that's the worst state you can have as a player when you're playing a game of League, like being like feeling forced or trying to convince yourself that you need to kill this guy who just showed up on your screen, and like looking at the wrong things and stuff like that. I think that's kind of what happened, and because of that you kind of saw worse versions of every single player that was there. And Impact was still like probably above Vikla in terms of like the better performing player, the most reliable player on the team, but he still had like uncharacteristic mistakes where he would do a wrong macro decision. He was playing Arn, and instead of coming to the Rift Herald fight, I don't think Grubs existed. There was a Rift fight happening, and instead of coming with his Ornn ult and acing them, he went bot for a wave and then didn't have TP, and we had to give. So he still had like, obviously those happened, but he had like uncharacteristic mistakes, I guess. And yeah, like me and like the coaching staff and the whole team, we were trying to make it better. So I still like, it didn't change my opinion of Impact. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. My split with him in FlyQuest.
Okay. No, I like what you brought up, Dom. That the whole season structure, the fact that it's just like three game days a week. Yeah. It just seems like those collapses, we see them in LAC, like in a shorter time span, right, over 3 weeks. And like I guess like your problems, you just kind of never really catch up to anything if that's the format. Sorry, Dom, I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna say. Actually, what was I gonna say? I had a point that I was gonna make. How did you feel about the Vikla benching? Because I feel like that was the weirdest part for me, because I was like, I mean, wouldn't it have been better to just stick it out because you're in the shit already? And Spirax was never a player that I was like really high on. I mean, I play with him in solo. I think he's like a fine player, but I just don't think he's LCS level. I don't think he's better than Vikla, for example. So do you think that this was a mistake to run that like random game with Spirax? Because you did need to win these games. Like every game mattered so much when you got into that point of the season.
I thought it was very random. Because for me, if I had the decision, I would have tried a game with Yuji because he was the academy jungler at the time, and I thought Spica wasn't helping the team very much. I thought stylistically it didn't work with him, and Yuji was doing super well, and he's a super good kid.
Could you have played with Yuji because of, like the import rule, right? Like, doesn't he have this huge issue where he's like
You're right. Yeah, it would have been like a whole like we would have switched 2 players, I think. Then
yeah. Damn.
Yeah, so it was tough, I guess. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, we tried that. Apparently Vikla was on board because he obviously felt like he was underperforming, and he was like, maybe if I get to see, I think the theory was, now that you're talking about it, the theory was that Vikla will get to see the team from the outside, and then apparently he was like blaming himself a lot because he was getting ganged upon by like Impact telling him that he was doing wrong decisions, Prince coaches, because he was, I guess he entered in spring, and that was they didn't trust him very much. So like he like kind of not shut down, but he was like blaming himself a lot. He felt like he was a problem, so he wanted to like kind of take a step back. I don't think he initiated this roster swap, but once they talked to him about it, he was like down, and he would get to like watch games from the outside, see that we sucked anyway. Basically, was a theory like either Spirax is super good and he comes in and we're better, or Vikla sees like, okay, my team suck. Like it's not really my fault, that they're bad. But not only my fault, at least that we're bad, and you'll get to like feel better about playing and maybe like get out of his own way and play better. So that was the idea. But I'd never, like subbing someone for 2 games and then Sprite came in, didn't have much practice, didn't do too well, and subbed out. It's like, okay, well, maybe we could have done this in scrims only instead.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess to wrap this up, so we don't have to keep on, digging up your trauma. What was the sentiment at the end of the split? Like, did you feel like nervous, like, oh shit, my value has gone down, maybe I'm gonna like not have a job, or get paid less, or was it sadness, embarrassment because you hadn't been on a bad team before? Really, like this is probably the first team you were on that was actually bad. Probably the only team you've been on in your entire career that was like bottom of the table. How did you feel after the split was over?
I was glad it was over because at some point through that split, I mentioned earlier how I had the feeling that at some point we would turn it on and like be a good team. But at some point, like I was like, damn, okay, there's absolutely no way that we win the split. Like maybe we're able to like get it together and make worlds, maybe. But once it was over, because I felt like, I didn't give up in my games. I was still trying, but like it felt hopeless, to be honest, with how bad we were. So I was glad it was over. I did worry a little bit about what you mentioned. Obviously it's like a shit stain on my Games of Legend or Leaguepedia, I guess you could say, finishing 9th. But obviously, like I had so many better results before, and I feel like it's just outlier rather than a sign of me getting worse. So I worried a little bit, but not enough to like make me not sleep at night or anything.
Yeah. Were you surprised that you ended up like getting a C9 offer after that split? Was it like a kind of random? Did you have to think twice because you had been there before and essentially from how you said it, voiced your thing, but then you kind of got kicked? Like, how do you feel about going back to C9? Because normally there's trust issues and stuff when you end up having to go back to a team that's kind of like burned you once, so to speak.
No, I talked with Jack like in between. Like we obviously see each other at the studio, or there was an after party where they won, where we talked. Like that was the first time we talked after the me going to EG thing happened, and talked kind of about it, but not really. Like we kind of moved on, and it's something that I was kind of hoping for, honestly, to come back to C9 because they're the best team that I've been on in terms of like taking care of players and being there. Like Jack is always here if there's anything that could go better. He's gonna try to make it better. He's gonna do whatever he can, right? And that's like a big difference to when I was in EG, where the upper management is never there to do anything, and then everyone's like
Have to take
shifting
credit.
responsibilities. Yes, I'll need to take credit. So I was like pretty keen on coming back to C9. So I was low key hate watching a little bit when I had to go to the finals in 2023 summer, because like you have this activation or fan meets and stuff like that. So I had to go, and I was in the crowd with Jojo, and I was hate watching C9, hoping that like they would do bad so that they would consider roster changes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was hoping for it.
Nice. Nice.
Just putting all that, bro. Karma's a hell of a thing, bro. That year was a turbulent year. C9 reuniting now in this year. You reunite with Jojo Pune, 2024. I want to ask in terms of like my theory in regards to some of the C9 roster. I think the 2021 is a bit of an outlier because in my mind, I just because of how it played out, right? Considering Worlds. I wanted to bounce this theory off of you where watching the C9 teams, some of them that you've been on, it seems as if there's almost like a crisis of identity where there isn't like a true commitment to an idea. How would you like elaborate on, let's begin with the spring split, the issues of the spring split, because eventually, at least in my mind, I felt you guys were still just contenders until it switched to where Team Liquid just kind of ramped up.
Yeah. Spring split specifically, I can't remember if there was anything like different than what I want to talk about during summer. I'm trying to remember because obviously we had Fudge and Mythi rather than Thanatos and Reapered.
I mean, I would say like maybe this will lead you in some type of direction. So a lot of what the community was talking about at this point was they're very surprised by the level that Berserker individually was playing at. Like there was just a lot of really strange mistakes that people were seeing, like him just randomly get like hooked in lane, like you guys got like 2v2 killed, and it was just like he just randomly would get hooked on like Lucian. So it's like, can he not play Lucian Nami? He was the guy that could play everything before. It was like you would give him Zeri, he would play the most unplayable game and then be like 1v9ing, almost carrying the whole team. And it would like switch to him looking like just a average NA AD. People were talking about the skill vampires got to him, this type of stuff. I don't know if that leads you anywhere, if that has anything that you wanted to talk about, or if that doesn't matter and we just go summer.
Well, yeah. The theory is that I ruined the ADCs, right? I ruined the Korean ADCs.
I was going to say that, but
first Prince, I made him retire, and then Berserker, I sent him back home. So that's
good
that's
luck,
why.
Zen.
Yeah,
rest in peace.
he's Danish, so we're good.
Okay.
No, yeah, for Berserker underperforming. Well, to be honest, maybe we should get Blabber back on here so that he can share his take, because I didn't get to see like how he was working with Zven versus working with me. So I don't know if Zven was doing something specifically with him that helped him a lot more, or I don't know what it was exactly, because I'm trying my best and doing what I think is right during the game, and I have certain strengths. Zven has certain different strengths, so obviously they click better, whatever. Because I think Berserker was, everyone can see he was playing a lot better before I joined. And I want to say, like, it's not like we didn't get along very well, but we also didn't get along super well. It was more like a professional relationship between him and me. There was like my biggest thing was that I felt like it was hard to communicate to him during the game, or like if I wanted to get information from him. Sometimes I don't know if it was like a lack of focus, but both in scrims and on stage, I'd like ask him a question, and I like comparing it to Zven because it's so easy for me to talk with Zven during the game. Like he's always locked in. He's used to the way I speak because he's played with English speakers for so much longer. So like it flows super well. It's super easy to like go back and forth. I could say something like and mess up the way I say it, and Zven will probably understand what I mean, right? But with Berserker, like even if I said something super clearly and there's no one else speaking, sometimes I wouldn't get the answer back. So it's kind of hard to, be on the same page, right? If you're not able to like have that back and forth in game. Obviously now, there's this whole thing about like League of Legends doesn't have any language and you just play the game and everything. But no one is, at that level if you're being realistic. So or maybe very few if you want to be, I don't know, whatever. So it wasn't super good with Berserker, but it wasn't super bad. I think we kind of developed as the year went on. Like if you go back and look, I think we were a lot better during summer, but it wasn't like anything insane. So yeah, it's just like I go back to like it's hard for me to know because I can't compare this Berserker that I played with to the Berserker from previous years who worked with other people and maybe acted differently or whatever.
Yeah. It seemed like you wanted to talk about something specifically in like summer. So I'll let you just go there. Like just tell us about this roster, because I mean, to make things short, the expectations were that at worst you guys would go to Worlds. Like FlyQuest TL were looking strong, but you guys were pretty dominant in the regular season. You guys were 6-1 in the regular season. People thought, okay, this team has improved from spring, and Worlds is almost guaranteed. Like who else could take a spot away? 100 Thieves wasn't on the radar yet. It just seemed like you guys had it almost in the bag, so to speak.
Yeah, for summer, like the strong feelings and the big thoughts that I have is that we would obviously find ourselves in like good positions in the game in most games, and maybe that's because of the way we drafted. But I think we just had like very strong players, obviously, and then we would find ourselves in like a important Drake fight where we wouldn't prioritize it more than like a wave or a turret or something, and then people would a solo would go to a wave with TP up, right? And like they're face checking and we're catching the wave, and you can TP in and it's kind of fine. But then if everyone's kind of thinking that way, like the enemy team just gets to do whatever they want, and I'm playing support and I want to hook in as Nautilus and I don't want to press my Q button because like we're playing with 2 TPs and like it's hard to initiate fights. So sometimes it felt like we weren't super connected in the sense that I want to fight now and they're like walking in a very bad zone. But if my team doesn't recognize that and like come in, or maybe they drop a wave to be here on time, like maybe they use spells to zone them, then I can't press my button because it's going to be a bad fight. And then we kind of like, we have to give the zone, and then we were playing a different team fight than we could have played initially. And we kind of play this way where we maximize like our gold on certain champions, but then we kind of give a lot to the other team. And it's not like to blame the way that we played, because I can always scream like TP, 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 we're fighting now. But then I'm seeing on my map that we're not here and I'm not doing it, right? So it's partly my fault for not like saying that I want to do this now and like don't go to your wave and whatever. But it was like we weren't prioritizing the game winning event, kind of. Or like there's an important Drake fight, like third Drake for one of the teams, and instead of dropping a side lane and being grouped and making sure that we can go in and everyone's confident in the fight, we would play it in a different way, and then it becomes a bit harder to navigate and we wouldn't do it very well. So.
Have you learned like anything specific from that, like being more forceful with making sure that everyone understands that something is about to happen in the game, that like this is like the game deciding moment, we don't need like extra farm right now, having people trying to have people focus more on specific item spikes or something like that? Like, okay, once you have these items, you're good. You don't need to like cheat the extra wave. You don't need to maximize this. Like, we need to like play this one situation really well that's going to win the game. Did you take anything away from that, like mental notes on how to stop your team from doing that in the future? Because it seems like a lot of teams have this problem, especially in the West.
Yeah, I tried, because I think it's something that I'm naturally good at, maybe like kind of reading the game and like being aware of what's more important than something else. So I've, obviously I'm trying now to like tell my team if I feel like something is super important and we're kind of like maybe not rating it as importantly as I would want to, because it's my responsibility to, right? If it's one of my strengths, then it would be dumb. It would be my fault to not use it. So like warning my team that is something super important, like making sure that I check the conditions. Like I'm aware, okay, he has TP, so I need to play it in a certain way. He's playing to TP, so all right, I put a ward here, and I tell him like, okay, we're gonna fight here. You need to TP as soon as they come, something like that. So just using my strengths more, I guess. Yeah.
I wanted to know, because between the splits, it's like there was a change in coaching staff. Repeat coming back to C9. Mebdi, someone that you worked with in the past as well. Mebdi had a lot of success on FlyQuest, and I think it was because he had like the specific role, of course, to just coach Busio specifically, is what we were told by Nuktak, I believe. I wanted to hear your experience in working with Mithy and how it was different coming back to working with him after so much time. How did Mithy function in the head coach role, and how was the transition then later into Reaper's version of C9 in the same year?
I think Mithy was a lot more organized than back when he first coached us in 2021. He had experience with 100 Thieves and like more, just more experience overall. So everything was more structured. He had like developed kind of, big ideas of what he wants from his team, and like, yeah. And I liked it, honestly. I like Mithy a lot as a coach, as a person. He's part of the esports soccer squad, and as you've probably learned at this point, I rate the people that I play soccer with a bit higher than others.
What about Digon? What about my boy Digon? He's part of that. He was part of that squad, right?
Yeah. He's one of the top players. He's goated. He's he's a tank, and he plays striker. And he's like, you don't want to get in his way because he's gonna run like into you and break you in half. That's what happened to Mithy at some point. But yeah, no, I like Mithy a lot as a coach. I thought from spring to summer when we switched to Reaper, I was happy to keep working with Mithy, but I thought he maybe needed somebody in person with him to help, because we obviously had a lot of big names, big egos, whatever. Like, it was, to be fair, a hard team to coach, and I thought him being alone as a coach wasn't enough. So my feeling was that we needed someone else, or someone more, not someone else. But we went with Reaper, and honestly, I rate Reaper super highly too. And he came in and like, he just told us that we were stupid and like we played like shit, and he told us like the big things to focus on, like, because in spring, I remember a bit what was the problem, but in spring split, we would kind of tell each other what to do a lot of the time, and then we would play poorly the situation out on our screens. So the big thing when Reaper came in, and it's almost kind of stupid, right? A goal player could tell you to like focus on what's going on your screen, but he was telling us like, focus on yourself and trust your teammate to fix the problem. If he does have one, like, let him fuck up, and then he'll realize and he'll try his best to improve it, or you'll just do it well, and then you're good. So just focus on what's going on your screen, because we were like playing team fights so poorly, like trying to tell someone what's important right now and then getting hit by skill shots and not dodging it, stuff like that. So Reaper is super, super good at like finding simple things. I kind of said that with Rigby, but I think they're similar in that way, where you'll find something that's super easy to fix, but can still like impact the team so greatly. So
I wanted to know. There was like a big topic about that best of 5 against 100 Thieves was just like the preparation, right? And that maybe is a better way of phrasing what I wanted to say earlier. Is just, it's like, it just seems so all over the place in what you guys wanted to achieve. How did you guys reach that point? It was like the LeBlanc Niddly and so forth. It's like, how did nobody in the room like stop that, or was that what you guys practiced? How did that come to be the conclusion?
It's because JoJo's LeBlanc in scrims was like super insane, and we had so much success with it. So it was like, it's fine to have LeBlanc Nidalee, because like both players are really good at the champs, and we can make it work. Like, obviously we know that it has downsides, but we felt confident in it. But for me, the bigger thing was that in the week leading up to that match, we were practicing so much Ziggs, and not to flame Berserker super hard, but he's just not a Ziggs player. He's just like, he's an ADC. You give him an ADC, he'll farm up, he'll play a team fight super well, he won't die, and he's gonna carry. And then we had so much priority on Ziggs, and obviously it was kind of broken, but like not to the point where you have to play him no matter what. And I was just, at some point, like during that week of practice, I was like, yo, Berserker, I have a question. And it was with the whole team, right? It was like after review. I was like, so this is about to be like maybe the last series of the year, right? Like, if we lose, are you sure you want to be playing Ziggs? And I asked him directly, right? Because he's the one kept playing the champion. I didn't want him to like feel pressured by the coaches, because Reaper was a big believer of Ziggs, and we were playing back row pretty well with Ziggs. But in my opinion, in big matches like this, you need to play a champ that you want to play, that you feel comfortable playing. And obviously, I say in my opinion, as if this is something that you can debate, right? But like, you're going to be in situations in those games where it's going to be maybe a clown fiesta, and your instinct, I call it instinct, needs to kick in a little bit. And like, there's some situations that you need to be able to react in a very specific way that you can't react well if you haven't played hundreds of games on a certain champ. And we practice Ziggs a lot, but it's not a champ that Berserker has played for 5 years like it is for Aphelios or Kai'Sa or, traditional IDCs. So to me, because you asked about preparation leading up to that week, that was
What did he say?
the one thing.
What was Berserker's response?
I did skip that. He said, "Yeah, it's OP," something like that.
Okay, and then
so
it was.
He wanted to play it.
That
Yeah,
was the last
OP.
game we played.
He was right,
So.
and it was it was the last series that we played, right? So we were both right.
Yeah, perfect.
But it wasn't
That worked out.
it wasn't because of that we lost. But maybe if he had played Kai'Sa, we would have lost lane, and then he would have 1v9 later in the game. It's hard to say. But yeah, so yeah, because I was gonna say, like, you asked about preparation, and that was the one thing that stuck out to me. I feel like we didn't really stick to our strengths and like try to adapt the meta to us rather than purely adapting to the meta and being like Genji did this and are running around destroying every turret. So that'll be us. Because I'd rather we find a champion that's good right now and we are very good at, and then we play that. And we can ban Ziggs worst case if we're afraid of it. So then it was a situation where we like first pick Ziggs at some point during that series, and enemy ADC played Kai'Sa. Yeah, final game on Ziggs, we first pick it, and then they get Kai'Sa Renekton. Renekton was like one of our favorite picks at the time. We like gave Renekton for the Ziggs, where we could have like picked Renekton first and then traded Kai'Sa for Ziggs. Like if we thought Ziggs was so OP, we could just trade them because Kai'Sa is a known counterpick to Ziggs, kind of like in terms of not laning, but as a champion mid game and stuff like that. So we kind of tunneled on the Ziggs, and then yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, how much was it because of like Tomo being known as being a really good Ziggs player? Was it just like a denial pick? Were you guys afraid of the Tomo Ziggs?
Yeah, they were playing it a good amount. So.
He seemed like Tomo seems like a Ziggs player, to be honest. Like he just like had like a good feel for the champ. It felt like he was like, I just remember him being really good with the satchel. Like that was the main thing I took away from Tomo. I'm like, damn, this guy is fucking quick with it.
This guy's
like,
got a good satchel.
Yeah, like just he would get engaged on it, just instantly just drop it at his feet, man. Like I see some, bro. You should see Hums like you would think.
No, I don't want to see.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, bro.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's some Ziggs. I mean, it's a tough champ. Like honestly, it looks so simple, but when I play him, because I like to play mid sometimes. Yeah. When I'm off roll, and it's hard.
I feel like it's a champion where it's easy to execute like the early part of the game with Ziggs. It's like you're just gonna like push in, like in that meta, it was like you're gonna push in the waves and then you're gonna like swap and just hit the fucking turret, like rotate at the right timing. Like I feel like that part can be really well like taught out, but I feel like something that AD carriers are generally not good at is like spell discipline. Like they don't use there's not like a lot of AD carriers that are using specific spells to zone like a minefield or something like that with Ziggs. They don't have like this control mage like choke control playstyle inherently.
It's a different skill, yeah. It's different, yeah.
And I just feel like that's something that's completely lacking in like the bad Ziggs players, so to speak. In this series specifically, I remember watching it and I just felt like the main thing wasn't even gameplay or draft or anything. It felt like there was just like insane like mental edge on the side of 100 Thieves. Like they had so much momentum in the series that you guys were really nervous by the circumstance, because coming into this, everyone had like C9 3-0. You guys lose the first game and it's like, oh shit, like what's happening? The second game you win, but it wasn't like a super easy win. It was, a tough fought game. And then in the game 3 and game 4, it felt like you guys were kind of like broken down in a way. Like the team was under so much stress. Did you feel that? Did it feel like the walls were closing in? Like everyone is just, oh my god, what happens if we lose this game? Is that how it felt on stage?
Yeah, there was kind of no testo in that series. I kind of attribute it to like the series against Fly. I think it was in the upper bracket before we got down there and played 100 Thieves, where we had like very solid positions in the games and we should have won. And those are the games when I mentioned like not coming to the team fights where we had really good positions in the game. We were ahead. We had an important Drake fights and we didn't like execute on them. That was a series where we really sucked at it, and I think it affected us, obviously, and we didn't bounce back well enough because there was no testo, no like I don't know, didn't feel like we were very
losing peace angle, the Dardock special.
A little bit, like, yeah, like we didn't really have faith or trust that we were gonna like find a comeback in those games, like because when on the best teams that I've played under, like no matter what position we're in the game, we would still like have faith that something good will happen and we won't feel rushed. I said this earlier too. We won't feel rushed to like find a pick now or find a team fight now, and we just kind of wait for a moment and stuff. And I think we were pretty bad. We like felt pressured because, like you said, we were supposed to be at Worlds. We're like the best team ever in NA on paper, stuff like that. Obviously, we don't think about that during the games, but like we knew that we should do a lot better, and we weren't doing better.
I mean, it's just like if we lose, this is like if we lose, we're probably not going to be playing with the same players next year. Like, so people are going to be losing their jobs. Like, we're going to be getting flamed online. Everyone's going to like, be talking about us, like all this type of stuff. You're not thinking about them specifically, but I feel like it just has like a certain weight,
a feeling. Yeah, weight.
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like a weight on the team.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough situation. I know exactly what you mean because when you were talking about like how different teams feel, because I only played on one team that was good, and even though it was like like a super long time ago, like I mean I played on teams that were like on paper good, but we were not actually solid teams. Like we weren't actually going to win. It's just like we're kind of like lucking ourselves into like first place regular season. And everyone's looking at us like it's like the 100 Thieves first place regular season from last year. Where like the fucking, it's like a bunch of like fucking people with guns, and then we're just the clown in the middle with like the gun. Like that's pretty much like how we were. But I remember like what the feeling was. It's just you always have faith when you're on like a good team. You always have faith that you're just gonna win somehow. Like you don't know how you're gonna win, but you just feel like yeah, we'll probably just win somehow. Like somebody will do something that will make us win. Like we just got this. Like no matter what,
Yeah.
You have that feeling. And then on like different teams, the second it starts slipping away, you're like, well, what do we do now? Like, what do I like? You could feel it going down, but you don't know what to do to change it. So it can be super tough. I wanted to transition the conversation a little bit to this upcoming year because you had a like rookie. I mean, I guess he wasn't technically a rookie because Vikla played a year in Korea, but you had a very young mid laner that came over when you were on FlyQuest. You had to deal with him. Young guy, didn't speak much English. Now you have an import Korean mid laner, Loki, who no one really knows anything about, but the expectation is that he's going to be like some, mechanical talent that is like super raw, similar to like Quid, I guess, is what's in people's mind. Like some of these newer players that have came over and done pretty well. What can you tell us about Loki, your new mid laner?
I think he's super insane. It's funny you mentioned the Vikla as comparison, because I think in this first scrim that we had with Loki in Korea, I think he probably communicated more than Vikla did on average in that game, even though it was his first experience playing with an English-speaking team. He's like very outgoing for someone who isn't very comfortable with the language. I mean, to be honest, it's a lot better already. He's learning super fast, which is great because communication. And I think he's super insane. I think he'll do super well in stage games because I think his strengths are like being reliable in team fights, dealing damage, not inting it. So he's always, gonna pump out and not be the reason why we lose, I think, at least very rarely. And I think he'll do well. I think we have a good setup now. We also have Nick Smith added to the roster. I think he does a lot of great stuff for us. Yep. And I think Loki. Yeah, your question was about Loki. I think he's super insane and he's super eager to improve. He's a great guy.
You mentioned Nick, man. Like from outside, man, this guy seems to have the touch of death when it comes to orgs, all that good stuff, man. Like I know, like everyone, I guess he seems to have a lot of friends in esports, but I never seem to get a good like grip on what he actually does. Like you said, he does a lot of good stuff. Give us some tangibles. What does Nick provide to the team?
So first we have a morning meeting and he's like in charge of making the PowerPoint, I think. And so he brings a lot of structure to Reaper, who he's really, really smart about the game, but he doesn't have like the structure part of, I don't know, being a coach super down. So Nick is super good at, making the PowerPoint, making the structure, kind of like deciding what we're going to talk about. We have like, now we have feedback from like the previous days that we didn't really have in our previous morning meetings, where we're kind of reminding what we talked about to make sure that it's fresh in everyone's minds. He downloaded GIFs and pictures to put on the slides because we did this thing where we did like comments from the players regarding the previous day's scrim to like kind of have an idea of what was the issue, maybe, or like feelings from different players. And then he would put like the meme pictures from everyone. He would like download the GIF that I have with my chocolate milk when I'm like at the bathroom.
Oh yeah, the robe.
Sven, the robe. Sven was
Wait,
like
what
the
was that?
Dr. Pepper with the girls.
What was the context of that picture? Like you were flaming somebody, I remember. Like it was a banger, but I don't remember what it was.
This was when we 3-0'd Mad Lions. And he was so fucking annoying that year because of G2 beating us every chance they got at MSI. And at Worlds we beat them one time, so we'll take that win. But they were so fucking annoying. So that was me lashing out at them after we 3-0'd them, yeah.
Nice. I appreciate the social...
meme.
The Ronaldo reference. Yeah.
Right. As a European, that was respectful. That was an ace move, man.
Yeah. But let me go back to Nick before it only sounds like he makes PowerPoints, because he's helping a lot with drafts. Now it's Fearless, right? And it's the first time, and he's kind of like he's the guy right now. He's the Fearless guy in terms of like tracking what's out, what's left, obviously. What certain champions being out means for other champions. So sometimes, obviously, you'll have a certain champ that's countered by other champs, and if those champs were already played, then this champ becomes OP, and he keeps track of that, and he makes sure that we're aware and that we have a solid draft. So he's handling a lot of drafting. He's part of reviews, so he's looking out for like obviously stuff we do wrong. So he's an assistant coach. He's doing like gameplay stuff, and he's a super smart guy, and he's good at the stuff that I mentioned earlier, but that I like in coaches, because he can connect with people well. He can lead a room. So far I'm liking it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I was gonna say also, like doesn't he add some good testo to the room? If you said you lacked testo before, this guy is bald, tattoos, like beard, everything. Isn't that what the team needed? Some more testo in the room.
That's exactly what we needed, and it's funny you say that, because today actually we were just at Tech Check at Riot, and like I just had a stupid thought. I love having stupid thoughts sometimes and sharing them. But I was looking at Nick, and I remember that his name is Nick Smith, right? And I was thinking how like back in the day, how last names obviously are like associated with the work that people did.
Like a blacksmith or something.
So he was probably a blacksmith in his family, and I was like, damn, Nick Smith, it's kind of crazy. You're built like you could work in a forge. So yeah, for the testo, like you said, I think it helps. Yeah, that's what we needed.
So Laflamme, like you were just like extremely flamboyant, or like what was your name, or was it the Flame? Like
no, it's weird because it was my brother talked about it over Christmas, but it was Kemar. It was a different name, and then the name changed because it was hard to pronounce over here once like our family moved from France, and then I forget what Kemar meant, but yeah, I can't help you. There was nothing flamboyant or anything like that. It was nothing to do with fire before. Yeah, unfortunately.
All right.
I was telling him before, bro, he has one of the like coolest names in all of esports, or Philippe Laflamme. I gave him the Shadow Philippe Laflamme, Philippe La Shadow Flame is the nickname of the item, bro. It's like the Vulcan. I assume this comes from like the god of fire. This is good shit, bro. There's some lore behind there. Yeah. I had one final thing. Before I forget, because it's 2 a.m. for me, so I'm forgetting everything. We walked through so much of your experience, what you've been through, right? Like you're bringing a wealth of experience into this next year. What has been implemented now in the preseason work from your side and the team side to make sure that your experience is being put to good use, so you don't fall in the same pitfalls like maybe you did in the past teams?
Yeah, I, for myself individually, I'm like more kind of aware of what we're doing and where we're clicking. I feel like in the past 2 years, I was maybe a bit more nonchalant about like what my teammates were doing, and like I was focusing on what I can do, but not so much like obviously in connection to my teammates, but not as much as I could have been, I think. So I'm kind of more aware of like what we're actually doing and where we're actually clicking, and trying to make sure that like I understand why Blabber did a certain thing, and then we can talk about like what maybe I saw differently, or like what's the reason he did it. So next time I can like align with that, or maybe get him to align with my idea. So kind of not allowing us to be freestyling. Like, just make sure that we have like a solid game plan and that we're aware of like, because in League, like if one player clicks somewhere, the whole team has to adapt to that click, and making sure that we're not like starting to go in a mode where like someone clicks somewhere and then someone else doesn't really care too much and you're clicking there and then you're kind of like all disconnected. I want to try and help the team and make sure that myself, I'm not part of, the reason for our team not being connected, but making sure that we're, on the same page and playing together.
Yeah. I like it.
I like it too.
I have one final thing. Now, this is something, if you guys don't know, Vulcan got the experience of playing with my favorite player of all time, which is obviously Piglet. He was the AD carry for Vulcan before he got tragically benched and sent back to Korea, then went to the military. Then he coached Academy and lost every single game as a coach for Academy. And now he's back coaching again. Anyways, main point. I want to end with all of us saying something nice about Piglet. So Vulcan, tell me something good about Piglet.
Well, he actually said like a very nice thing, I guess, to me that I remember to this day from our time on Clutch. And he told me that this was actually when we were back in Academy together. So my first split in LA. He told me, wow, you're good. If you were Korean, you would win Worlds.
Damn.
I think that's probably the highest praise you can get from
Damn. But you're not
World
Korean.
I'm not Korean, unfortunately. So I guess he was telling me that I can't win Worlds because I'm from NA. So that's not that nice, but I take it. I like to take it as a compliment.
Okay, respect. Yamato, what do you have for Piglet?
I sometimes go back and watch that SKT from season 3, and I think he had some really, really insane games, memorable Vayne games, memorable Caitlyn games. I like to go on the nostalgia trip. Beyond that, I don't know too much about Piglet. So Dom, I'm curious about you, bro.
So I would just say that Piglet probably had some of the most positive impact on my entire life and my career, right? Like by my experience of playing with Piglet, I decided to become a streamer the following year. And, my stream's been going pretty well. I create content, I'm still, I earned way more than I would have as a pro player. Probably, I have pretty chill lifestyle, etc. So thank you, Piglet, for, pointing me in the direction of streaming. You helped my career greatly. So there it is. That is the end of this episode with Vulcan. Thank you for being here, Vulcan. I know you guys have a busy schedule and you guys have a game this week, or best of 3 this week. So we'll see how you do there. It was good to go back, get all the stories, have some laughs. It was fun. So yep, that's been episode 22 of the Sackdown, and we'll catch you next week for another episode.